So, today we have an unboxing and a review, and I'm going to do an in-depth setup of how to set this CO2 regulator by FZone. This is brand new on the market. It's called the FZone Pro. It has a lot of nice features to it. It's built well. So, let's get into it. Here it is. Packaged nice. As you notice, this is a little different than some other CO2 regulators. This has two bubble counters, which means you could hook up two diffusers. So the reason you'd want to do this, if you have more than one tank, it helps if they're in the same room. So if you have, two tanks set up side by side, similar size, you could run one into one tank, one into the other, off the same CO2 tank. Also, if you don't want to do that, this is removable, or you could just turn one of these off. So, first of all, let's show you how to attach this on here. This is a CO2 tank. This is a 5-pound. For smaller tanks, people use paintball tanks. You would need to get an adapter so this fits on a paintball tank. Otherwise, this will fit right on this CO2 tank. So, all you do, you see these here are little gaskets so it doesn't leak. There's one thing that's very important. A lot of CO2 companies will put their own on there. So if you put one on here and one on there, it's not going to be right. So since there's already a seal on this CO2 tank, we're going to put this in bare. So basically, you just screw this right on to your tank. Get a wrench, make sure it's pretty tight, not too tight. Basically, this dial here, you're going to see it on this gauge. Once you open this, it's going to send pressure in these gauges. A good rule of thumb is a normal diffuser, like a ceramic one that you normally see, you want to be between, around 30 pounds of pressure is pretty good. They have atomizers that are like that little tube, the white tube diffuser. The bubbles are finer and you're going to need a little more pressure, so about 40 to 50 pounds of pressure. So you're going to just adjust this to dial up the pressure. Once you do that, we're going to open. We're going to keep one off and one on for now. You're going to open this up here and you're going to pour liquid into it. This is a bubble counter. This is just so you know how much flow is going into your tank. There's really no right answer for how many bubbles per second. There's a general rule of thumb, but really you want to get a drop checker. A drop checker will tell you exactly that you're having the right amount of CO2 in your tank. Underneath are these gauges here. Separate than this is for pressure only. This here will adjust how fast the bubbles are coming out. If you have a big tank, you want them to go faster. If you have a small tank, you don't need too much. You're going to fill liquid in here. People use water, but over time the water will evaporate. I actually use Flourish XL to clear liquid. It doesn't evaporate, and God forbid if it goes through the tube into the aquarium, it's totally fine because it's made for aquariums. So anyways, I take the top off. You unscrew another top here. Okay? You're going to run this thread through the tube, and you're going to put the tube right on. You're going to then screw the thread back on so it's nice and tight. Put it on. And you're going to connect this end to the CO2 diffuser of your choice. You're going to have a longer one. It'll be in the aquarium with a suction cup. Turn this bad boy on, make sure the pressure is correct, adjust this dial here, and make sure it's coming out, and you're done. Very simple setup. So, now I'm going to explain how to remove one of these. So like I said before, you can just turn one off and leave both together, or you can remove it totally. It's your preference. So I'm going to take this off. Okay, so if you don't want both of these working, even though you can turn it off, I'm going to show you how to undo this. Comes with an Allen wrench. There's 2 screws here. You unscrew them. One comes off. You have to take the second one off also. The middle one is the one you take off. Okay. So, this is the middle one, okay? If you see, there's holes on both sides. So if you just keep the middle one attached, the CO2 is going to go right through. You have to do the one that doesn't have the hole on the other side. This is what a lot of people get confused with. See how there's a nipple here and a nipple here? They're not going to work. One of the nipples needs to be removed. Pull it right out, okay? Can attach this right to there. Screw it back on. It's that easy. It's really nice that you have the option of running 2, 3, 4. You could buy more of these. You could hook up, 5. I wouldn't recommend it, but at least 2 is fine. If you have multiple tanks, or if you have one big tank and you want to put a diffuser at either end, that's fantastic. It's very smart to do that. Now, a few little things I want to bring up. It's going to come with a charger, of course. A power cord. Certain CO2 diffusers you can't hook up to a timer to go on and off on its own because it doesn't have a solenoid. This one has one. So basically, this little thing right here, you want to make sure these screws are tight on the bottom. Sometimes they're a little loose. You want to make sure that you hook this up to a timer, and this will turn this on and off. You're going to plug this in right to the timer. This will go on and off whatever you set the timer to. People who are new to CO2 setups, if this is your first time, it takes a little while for the CO2 bubbles to saturate the water. So if you have this go on right when the lights go on, you don't have quite enough CO2 yet. So what I like to do, and what I know a lot of other people like to do, is have this go on about 2 hours to an hour before the lights go on. So if it goes on 2 hours before, it's adding the bubbles into the water's nice and saturated with CO2. So when the lights go on, it's fully ready and fully saturated with CO2. It's better for the plants. And then you can have this go off the same time the lights go off, and it'll be fine. It'll be just fine. So, like I said, you're going to put the tube onto this one and hook it right up to your diffuser. Set this, if you have a normal diffuser, set it to about 20 or 30 pressure. It'll tell you right on the gauge. If you have an atomizer, set it to 50 pounds of pressure, and you're all set. You're good to go. And that's how to set up this FZone CO2 regulator. Another thing I'd like to point out is there's a lot of CO2 regulators on the market that they're cheaper option. Having said that, this one is actually a really good price for the quality. I know some that are double the price of this that work about the same. So certain regulators, some regulators on the market, the cheaper ones, the less quality ones, the bubbles should be going at a steady rate. 1 bubble per second, 2 bubbles per second, 3 bubbles per second. When you come back at the end of the day, you want it still at that same rate. Some regulators don't hold that same consistency. I've had tanks and CO2 regulators where I set it perfect. 2 hours later, the thing's going really fast and putting way too much CO2 in my aquarium and wasting it, and it could also gas your fish. Or the other way around, I have a nice steady flow, and then I come back and look at it and it's going really slow, and I have to keep readjusting this. The most important thing is getting a regulator that's consistent and high quality. This one has worked phenomenal for me. I also have the FZone's mini version that fits on a paintball tank for my smaller tanks. So FZone sells many different versions. This one is called the Pro, and then the mini I use for my other paintball tanks. So that's basically how to set up, how to get this started, and my opinion on it. And that's my review and unboxing. So thank you guys for joining.